I still remember that night. The air smelled like rain and something rotten, something old and dead hiding under the wind. My name is Ethan Cole, and I had been a cop for 16 years. I thought I'd seen everything: murder, drugs, broken families, but nothing prepared me for what I saw at that lake. I got the call from my partner, Danny Ruiz, around midnight. Danny and I had been partners for 8 years. He was like a brother to me. We'd been through shootouts together, chased drug dealers through dark alleys, sat in our car on long stakeouts talking about our families and dreams. He even held my son when he was born. That's how close we were. So when he called me that night, his voice low and shaky, I didn't think twice. "Ethan, I need you to come out to Miller's Lake. I messed up, man. I just need your help." He sounded scared. I thought maybe he got into a fight with a suspect or found a body. I didn't know I was walking straight into hell. The drive to Miller's Lake took about 40 minutes. The roads were empty, just the sound of rain tapping on the windshield and my wipers squeaking. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. Something didn't feel right, but I told myself it was just another bad night on the job. When I pulled up, his car was already there. The headlights lit up the fog that hugged the water. Danny stood by the edge of the lake, his jacket soaked, his face hard to see in the mist, and beside him was something covered by a black tarp. "Danny," I called out, stepping closer. "What happened?" He didn't look at me right away. He just stared down at the tarp, breathing slow. "I need you to help me get rid of this," he said. For a second I thought maybe it was a deer he hit on the road, but then I saw a hand fall out from under the tarp. A human hand, pale still. My stomach dropped. "Danny," I said quietly, "tell me this isn't what I think it is." He turned to me then, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not fear, not regret, just calm, like he'd already made peace with it. "It's a guy who got too curious," he said. "A man who knew things he shouldn't. I did what I had to do." I froze. "You killed him." Danny sighed. "You don't get it, Ethan. There's more going on than you think. I've been working with people who actually run things around here. Real power, not the badge, not the department, real power. I've been cleaning up for them, keeping things quiet, and I've been paid good money for it." I couldn't speak. The man I trusted more than anyone was confessing to being a dirty cop, a murderer. "You're out of your damn mind," I said. "You're talking about murder, about taking money from criminals." He stepped closer. "Don't act like you're shocked, partner. We both know the system's a joke. The city pays us peanuts to risk our lives while the real scum live rich. I've got a way out, and I'm giving you the same chance. You help me dump this body and you're in. You'll thank me later." My hands were shaking. The rain kept falling, dripping off the brim of my hat. I could hear the water of the lake lapping against the rocks. I looked down at the body again, the man's face half showing now, his eyes open and empty. Whoever he was, he didn't deserve to end up like this. "Danny," I said softly, "you need to turn yourself in." He laughed, a dark, cold laugh that didn't sound like him anymore. "You really think I'd do that? No, Ethan, you're either with me or you're against me, and if you're against me, well, that's not going to end well." That's when I realized he wasn't alone. I saw two shapes moving behind the trees, two men in dark jackets. Cops. I recognized them from the precinct, Harris and Kane. Both had been on the force for years, both with clean records, or so I thought. My heartbeat quickened. I could feel the danger closing in. Danny wasn't asking me to help. He was giving me a choice I could never take. I took a step back. "I can't do this," I said. "You've lost your mind. I'm leaving." "You walk away now," he said, his voice low. "You'll wish you hadn't." I turned and ran toward my car. I didn't look back, but I could feel their eyes burning into me. My boots splashed through puddles and the rain made everything slippery. When I got in the car, my hands were trembling so bad I almost dropped the keys. The drive back felt like a nightmare. My headlights barely cut through the fog. Every shadow looked like someone waiting to jump me. I kept hearing Danny's words in my head, "You're either with me or against me." By the time I reached home, it was almost 3 in the morning. My wife Sarah woke up when she heard the door. She saw my face and froze. "Ethan, what happened?" I couldn't even speak. I went straight to the bathroom and threw up. The image of that body, of Danny's cold eyes, wouldn't leave me. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, holding my badge, wondering if it still meant anything. The next few days were worse. Danny acted like nothing happened. He came to work, smiled, laughed, joked with the guys, but every time he looked at me there was something behind his smile, a warning. I started noticing things. My phone would ring and no one would answer. My car alarm went off twice in the middle of the night. I'd see a black sedan parked across the street, and when I went outside it would drive away. I knew they were watching me. Danny, Harris, Kane, they didn't trust me to stay quiet, and they were right. I was planning to go to internal affairs, but I had to be careful if they found out I was dead. One night I caught Danny waiting outside my house. He leaned against his car, smoking. "We need to talk," he said when I came out. "There's nothing to talk about," I told him. He smiled, slow and mean. "You think you can just walk away, Ethan? You think you can pretend you didn't see what you saw?" "I don't want any part of it," I said. "Just leave me and my family out of your mess." He flicked his cigarette away. "You saw too much, you know too much, that's a problem." I looked him dead in the eye. "If anything happens to me or my family, Danny, I'll drag you all down with me, I swear it." He stared for a long time, then nodded. "You should have joined us, partner, it could have been good." He got in his car and drove away. That was the last normal night I ever had. A week later my nightmare came true. It happened after my shift. I was driving home late, the streets quiet. When I stopped at a red light I noticed a car behind me. No headlights. I reached for my gun. Before I could react, the car sped up and slammed into my rear bumper. My head hit the steering wheel, my vision blurred. I stumbled out of the car, gun in hand, but there were 3 of them, Danny, Harris, and Kane. They came out of the shadows like wolves. "You should have stayed quiet," Danny said. "They beat me hard, kicked me when I was down. I tried to fight, but I was outnumbered. Harris hit me in the ribs with his baton. I heard the crack. Kane grabbed my arm and twisted it till I screamed. Danny stood over me, his gun pointed at my head. "You brought this on yourself," he said. Then the shot rang out. Darkness swallowed everything. When I woke up, everything hurt. My chest burned when I tried to breathe. My right arm felt like fire and I could barely move my legs. For a moment I didn't even know where I was. All I could hear was the slow beeping of a heart monitor and the faint hum of a hospital light. I wasn't dead. Somehow I was still alive. My vision cleared and I saw Sarah sitting in the chair beside me, her face pale and swollen from crying. When she saw my eyes open, she gasped and grabbed my hand. "Ethan, oh thank God." Her voice shook. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, my voice barely a whisper. "Where am I?" "County General," she said softly. "You've been here for 3 days. They said you were found by a fisherman near the old bridge. You'd been shot in the shoulder and hit in the head." Bits of memory came back to me, the rain, the headlights, the gun, Danny's voice, the sound of the shot. I touched my shoulder and felt the bandages under the gown. "They think it was a carjacking," she said. "That's what Danny told them." I froze. "Danny?" "He told them." He was already covering it up. I looked at Sarah and whispered, "You can't let anyone know where I am." She frowned. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "Promise me, Sarah," I said, gripping her hand. "Don't tell anyone, not the department, not Danny, no one, please." She stared at me for a long time and I could see the fear in her eyes. She'd never seen me like this before, broken, terrified. Finally, she nodded. "Okay," she said, "I promise." The next few days passed in a blur of pain and silence. Every time a nurse or doctor walked in, I'd flinch, thinking maybe it was them, that they'd come back to finish what they started. I kept the curtains closed and the lights dimmed. I felt safer in the dark. The police sent a few officers to check in, but I told Sarah to send them away. I didn't trust anyone. Danny had people everywhere. If he could kill and lie about it, he could make me disappear easily. Late one night when the hospital was quiet, I turned on the TV to drown out the noise in my head. But there he was, Danny, on the news, smiling, talking about a new task force to fight corruption in the department. The anchor called him a hero cop. I threw the remote at the screen. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just a dirty cop, he was untouchable. He had friends high up, people who'd protect him because he protected their secrets. And I was the one thing that could ruin everything. I wasn't just his partner anymore. I was a loose end. 2 weeks later, I left the hospital. Sarah wanted me to stay longer, but I couldn't. The longer I was there, the easier it was for Danny to find me. I wore a hoodie and sunglasses when I left, keeping my head down. Sarah helped me move into a small apartment across town under a different name, Eli Carter. She used her cousin's ID to rent it. She was scared, but she knew I had to disappear. The apartment was small and smelled of mold, but it was quiet. I liked that. I had a broken rib, a bad shoulder, and nightmares that woke me up every night. I'd see Danny's face every time I closed my eyes, hear the gunshot, feel the rain, smell the blood. I spent most nights sitting by the window watching the streetlights flicker. I didn't call anyone. I didn't go outside except to buy food or medicine. I just waited. I knew they'd come looking for me eventually. And they did. It started small, footsteps outside my door at night. Then one morning I found a note slipped under the door. No words, just a picture, me walking into the corner store 2 days ago. They knew where I was. I grabbed my gun and checked the hallway, but it was empty. The fear came back, sharp and heavy, sitting in my chest like a stone. They were watching me again, waiting. That night I called Sarah from a payphone 2 blocks away. "Sarah," I said, keeping my voice low, "if anyone comes asking about me, you don't say a word. Tell them I left town. Tell them you don't know where I went." "Ethan, this isn't right," she said, crying. "You need help. You can't take them on alone." "I can't go to internal affairs. Danny's too deep. If I talk, they'll kill us both. The only way to stop this is to finish it." "Finish it," she whispered. "What are you planning?" I didn't answer. I just said, "I love you," and hung up. The next few weeks I became a ghost. I followed Danny's car from a distance, keeping to the back roads. I watched him meet with Harris and Kane behind an old warehouse on the docks. I watched them exchange bags, money, drugs. I didn't care. I took pictures from the shadows, proof of what they were doing. Every move they made, I wrote it down. But the more I watched, the more I realized something. This wasn't just about money. They were doing things darker than that. They weren't just taking bribes. They were working for people who ran trafficking rings, drug routes, even hit jobs. They were cleaning up bodies for killers, hiding them in the woods, in lakes, and construction sites. Danny knew where every secret was buried, literally. He had become the city's shadow, and I was the one trying to fight it alone. The hate inside me started to grow. It burned every time I looked at my scars, every time I remembered the pain, the betrayal. I used to believe in the badge. Now I only believed in revenge. I stopped thinking like a cop. I started thinking like them. I bought fake IDs, burner phones, and a second gun. I started visiting the shooting range every night after closing, when the owner, a friend of my father, would let me in through the back door. He didn't ask questions. He saw the look in my eyes and knew better. The sound of gunfire became my therapy. Each shot made my hands steadier, my aim sharper, the pain quieter. Sometimes I'd see Danny in my mind, smiling that cold smile by the lake, telling me to join him. I'd whisper to myself, "I'm coming, partner, I'm coming for all of you." Then one night, as I sat by the window cleaning my gun, I saw headlights stop outside. A black sedan, the same kind they'd used before. My heart pounded. I turned off the lights and watched through the blinds. 2 men got out, both wearing suits, one of them Harris. I grabbed my gun and waited. They walked up to the door and knocked. I didn't move. "Ethan," Harris called out, voice mocking, "we know you're in there, we just want to talk." I stayed quiet. "You're making this worse," he said. "Danny wants to make peace, he feels bad about what happened." Peace, that word almost made me laugh. I remembered the feeling of his baton cracking my ribs. They knocked again, harder this time. Then silence. I waited for 10 minutes before I moved. When I looked through the peephole, they were gone, but I knew better. I went out the back, gun ready. I crept through the alley, sticking to the shadows. The night air was cold and the street was empty, too empty. Then I saw him, Harris, standing at the corner, smoking, waiting. I raised the gun. For a second I almost pulled the trigger, but not yet. I needed to be smarter. I needed to make them pay the right way. So I stepped back into the dark and disappeared. That was the night I stopped being a cop. I was done playing by rules that only got me killed. The law had failed, the system had failed, even my partner had failed me, but I hadn't failed myself, not yet. The next morning I started planning. I knew their routines, their secrets, their habits. I knew where they hid, where they met, who they trusted, and I knew exactly how to take them apart one by one. Not with a badge. With blood. It's strange what pain can do to you. It can break you. Or it can turn you into something else. 2 months after the attack, I was Ethan Cole, the good cop, the family man, the guy who followed every rule. That man had died on the side of the road the night Danny shot me. What was left was something quieter, colder, and a lot more dangerous. I'd spent weeks hiding in that small, rotten apartment, healing and waiting. But now I was done waiting. Now it was time for them to bleed. I started with Kane. He was the easiest target, stupid, loud, always showing off his money. He ran small drug busts on paper, but everyone in the department knew he was selling half the dope he confiscated. I followed him for days, watching him meet dealers and pocket cash. He thought no one saw him. He was wrong. One night he drove out to a closed junkyard on the edge of town. I followed from 2 blocks behind, lights off. The sky was dark and thunder rolled far away, like the world was warning me. He parked by an old metal shed, got out, and met a man with a duffel bag. I watched them from behind a pile of broken cars. When the deal was done, the other man left and Kane lit a cigarette, counting his cash. That was when I moved. The gravel crunched under my boots. Kane turned, his hand going to his gun, but he didn't recognize me at first. I was wearing a dark hoodie, my face half covered. "Hey," he said, stepping closer, "you lost or something?" I didn't answer. I just kept walking until he could see my eyes. "Cold," he said, voice cracking, "Holy, you're alive." "You sound surprised," I said. He backed up slowly, hand still near his gun. "Danny said you were gone. Look man, this isn't what you think. It was a mistake, all right." Danny panicked, "That's all." "You shot me," I said. "You left me to die." "It wasn't me, I swear, I shot him in the knee." He fell to the ground, screaming, clutching his leg. The sound echoed across the junkyard, but no one was around to hear. I walked over, calm as ice, and crouched beside him. "Danny told you to kill me," I said. "Now you're going to tell me where he hides his cash drops, where he meets his people, every single thing." He shook his head, eyes wide with pain. "He'll kill me if I talk." I leaned in closer. "If you don't, I will, and I won't make it quick." He broke fast. They always do when they realize you're serious. He told me everything. How Danny and Harris ran money through fake towing companies. How they met once a month at an old motel near the docks. How Danny had a secret storage locker under a fake name, the same place he kept his insurance files on the people he worked for. When Kane finished talking, he tried to crawl away. I let him. For a few seconds. Then I pressed the gun to the back of his head. "You should have left me dead," I whispered. The shot was quick. The echo lingered in the rain. I left his body there, half buried under metal scraps, and drove away before dawn. After Cain, the nights felt quieter. But the quiet didn't last. Revenge doesn't calm you, it feeds you. It whispers that there's still more to do, still more blood to spill before you can rest. Harris was next. He was smarter than Cain, cleaner. He didn't flaunt his money or his power. He hid it behind good manners, nice suits, and fake smiles. But he was worse, colder, crueler. He was the one who broke my ribs that night. I followed him for weeks. He had a pattern: church on Sundays, gym on Tuesdays, poker with dirty detectives on Fridays. He thought he was untouchable. He thought Danny's protection made him safe. But nobody's safe forever. I broke into his house one night when he was gone. I didn't steal anything. I just moved things, small things. His keys, his gun, a picture on his desk turned the wrong way. I wanted him to feel me before he saw me. The next night, I followed him home again. He looked nervous now, checking his mirrors, locking his doors twice. Good. Fear was my new weapon. When I finally made my move, it was raining again, same as that night at the lake. He was driving home from his poker game, headlights cutting through the storm. I followed him for 10 miles before flashing my high beams twice. He slowed, then turned onto a dirt road, the one leading to his cabin. I waited until he stopped, then parked behind him. He stepped out, gun ready. "Who's there?" he shouted. I walked toward him slow, letting the lightning flash show my face. He froze. "Ethan." "Yeah," I said, "miss me." He raised his gun, but his hands were shaking. "Danny said you." I fired first. The bullet hit his shoulder, spinning him around. He fell against his car, groaning, trying to aim again. Another shot, his hand exploded red. He dropped the gun. I kicked it away and grabbed him by the collar, slamming him against the car. His blood mixed with the rain, running down his face. "You should have finished the job," I said. "Danny made us," he gasped. "He said you'd talk, he said he had to." "He said a lot of things," I interrupted. "And now you'll say one thing. Where is he?" Harris coughed, blood spilling from his mouth. He's out of town tonight, meeting the boss, the motel near the docks, room 12. But Ethan, you don't know what you're dealing with. These people, they'll kill you." I smiled, small and bitter. "They already tried." Then I pulled him closer, whispered, "Say hi to Cain for me." The knife slid clean across his throat. I let him drop into the mud, his body twitching once, then still. The rain washed the blood away before I even left. By the time I got back to the city, it was nearly morning. The streets were empty, quiet, like the world was holding its breath. I parked near the docks and waited, watching the motel from a distance. Danny's car was there, black Chevy, same one from the night at the lake. He was inside. I could feel my pulse slow, my breathing steady. 8 years of friendship, 8 years of trust. And now one night to end it all. But I didn't move yet. I wanted him to feel it, the fear, the loss, the silence of his world collapsing. I wanted him to know what it felt like to be hunted by someone who once called him brother. The rain started again, soft at first, then harder. I stepped out of the car, gun in hand, and walked toward the motel. Each step felt heavier, each breath colder. This was it. The end of everything. And I was ready for it. After Harris, I thought I would feel better. I thought maybe the nightmares would stop. But they didn't. When I closed my eyes, I still saw the lake. The rain. The hand slipping out from under the tarp. Danny's voice whispering in my ear, "You could have joined me." It was like he was still alive inside my head, laughing at me, daring me to finish what I started. My body hurt all the time. My shoulder wound opened again from the fight, and I had to stitch it myself with shaking hands in that dim apartment bathroom. My ribs were sore, my arm bruised. The mirror showed someone I didn't recognize anymore, unshaved, eyes hollow, skin gray from sleepless nights. I wasn't a cop. I wasn't even human some days. I was just a ghost with a gun and too many memories. A few nights later, I got a call on one of the burner phones. A number I didn't know. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. "Ethan," a voice said softly. "Who is this?" I asked. "It's me," she whispered. "It's Sarah." My heart stopped. I hadn't heard her voice in weeks. I'd told her to stay away to keep herself safe. "Sarah, what are you doing? I told you not to." "He came to the house," she said, her voice shaking. "Danny came, he asked about you, he said he just wanted to make sure I was okay." I clenched my jaw. "Did he hurt you?" "No," she said, "but he gave me something, a picture. It was you, Ethan, you at the junkyard. He knows what you did." My breath caught. He knew. He said he just wanted to talk, that he could make this all go away if you stopped. He told me where to find him. He said he'd be waiting for you. "Where?" I asked. "Miller's Lake." Of course. The same place where it all started. The same place where he'd killed that man. The same place he'd tried to kill me. It was almost poetic. It had to end there. "Sarah," I said quietly, "listen to me. You need to take Michael and leave town. Don't come back until I call." "Ethan, please. Promise me." She cried softly but finally said, "I promise." I hung up, then I sat there for a long time, the gun heavy in my hand, the rain beginning to fall outside again. I didn't leave right away. I took my time. Cleaned my guns, checked my ammo. Wrote a letter to Sarah and our son. I didn't know if they'd ever see it, but I had to write it anyway. I tried to do the right things, but the world doesn't care about right or wrong, only power. I loved you both more than anything. Whatever happens next, don't remember me for what I became, remember me for who I tried to be. I folded the letter and left it on the table. Then I got into the car and drove into the storm. The road to Miller's Lake looked just like it had that night, dark, twisting, the trees leaning close like they were watching me. The rain came down hard, blurring the windshield. Every mile made my heartbeat slower, steadier. When I got there, Danny's car was parked by the water. His headlights glowed through the fog, the same ghostly light I remembered from before. He was waiting. I stepped out of my car, the cold air biting my skin, and walked toward him. The rain soaked my jacket in seconds, but I didn't care. Danny stood by the edge of the lake just like before, his hands in his pockets, cigarette glowing in the dark. When he saw me, he smiled. "You really came," he said. "You wanted to talk," I said. "Let's talk." He nodded, calm as ever. "You've made quite a mess, partner. 2 dead cops, the department crawling all over trying to figure out what happened. You think you can walk away from that?" "I don't plan to walk away," I said. He laughed, soft and cold. "You always were too serious. You think you're better than me, don't you? You think killing us makes you the good guy." I stared at him. "There's no good guys left, Danny, not anymore." He took a drag from his cigarette and flicked it into the lake. The red ember sizzled and died. "You know what the funny thing is?" he said. "I actually liked you. You were the only one who still believed in all that protect and serve crap. You kept me balanced. You kept me honest." "Honest?" I said, my voice breaking. "You murdered people, Danny." He smiled again, but his eyes were empty. "I survived, there's a difference." I raised my gun. "Not tonight." He didn't flinch, he just looked at me, rain dripping down his face. "You won't do it, you're still a cop inside. You'll arrest me, maybe beat me, but you won't kill me." I took a step closer. "You killed me already." He finally moved fast, drawing his gun from his coat. We both fired at the same time. The sound ripped through the rain. His shot grazed my side, mine hit his shoulder. He stumbled back, dropping his gun. I ran at him, tackled him to the ground. The mud was thick and cold, our blood mixing with it. We fought like animals, fists, elbows, teeth. He grabbed a rock and smashed it against my arm, and I felt something crack. I screamed and hit him across the jaw. "You should have stayed dead," he shouted. You first, I said. I grabbed the same rock he'd used and brought it down hard. Once. Twice. 3 times. He stopped moving after the 4th. I stood there, breathing hard, staring down at what was left of my partner. The rain washed the blood from my hands, but it didn't make me clean. Nothing ever could. I dragged his body to the edge of the lake, the same lake he'd used to hide so many others. The water was dark and calm now, almost peaceful. This is where it ends, I whispered. I pushed him in. Watched him sink. Watched the ripples fade until the lake looked still again. And then I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was over. Because there was nothing left. I sat by the water until sunrise. The storm had passed and the sky was gray and empty. I could hear birds somewhere in the trees, singing like the world hadn't just ended. When I finally stood up, my legs shook. My body was broken, but my mind was quiet for the first time in months. I didn't know what would happen next, if the police would find the bodies, if they'd find me, if I'd end up in prison or in a grave. I didn't care. Justice was never coming. But revenge had. And that was enough. The rain stopped by the time I finished at the lake. The sky was gray and still, and the water was calm again, like nothing had happened. Danny was gone. The man who had been my partner, my brother, the one who betrayed everything we stood for, was finally at the bottom of that lake. For a long time I just stood there, staring at the ripples fading into silence. I thought I'd feel something, joy, relief, peace. But there was nothing. Just a hollow space where my soul used to be. I dropped my gun into the mud and watched the rain wash the blood from my hands. It didn't matter how hard I tried. Some stains never come off. I drove back into the city as the morning light started to rise. The streets were wet and empty. The traffic lights blinked yellow over quiet intersections, and the world kept moving like it didn't even notice 3 dirty cops were dead. Like it didn't notice that another had become one of them. When I passed the precinct, I slowed down. Through the front windows, I could see the rookies coming in for roll call, laughing, joking, full of energy. I used to look like that. Before I learned what this badge really meant. I parked across the street and stared at the building one last time. It used to mean honor. Now all I saw was lies. I took my badge from my pocket. The metal was cracked down the middle from that night at the lake. You were supposed to protect people, I whispered, not destroy them. Then I dropped it into the gutter. The rain carried it away. When I got home, the house was quiet. Sarah's car was gone. I'd told her to leave town with Michael, to run far and never look back. She listened. The only thing left was the smell of her perfume in the hallway and a photo of the 3 of us on the table. We were smiling in that picture, all of us, before everything went wrong. I touched the glass and felt tears finally break through. I hadn't cried once since that night at the lake when I saw the first body. But now, alone in that empty house, I couldn't stop. 8 years of friendship, 16 years of service. All gone. And for what? Revenge doesn't heal you, it just teaches you how to live with your pain. The news came on later that night. 3 officers dead. 1 missing. They didn't say my name, but they didn't need to. I knew they'd figure it out soon. There would be an investigation, there would be people asking questions. But none of it mattered anymore. I went into the garage and sat in the car with the engine off. It smelled of oil and dust and memories. I thought about all the cases Danny and I had solved, all the people we'd helped. I thought about the night he told me being dirty was just business. And I thought about the moment I saw who he really was, and how it killed the man I used to be. The man who once believed in justice died a long time ago. All that was left was me, tired, broken, and ready to let it end. I wrote a short note and left it on the dashboard. Sarah, I love you. I'm sorry for what I've done. Tell Michael I tried to do the right thing even when it turned into the wrong thing. Don't look for me, live your life, be free. I put the photo of us next to the note. Then I started the car and drove out to the edge of the city, toward the river, the one that ran under the old bridge where they dumped bodies for years. Now it was my turn to disappear. The sky was pale and quiet, the river below looked calm just like the lake had been. I parked by the railing and stepped out. The wind hit my face cold and clean. For the first time in a long time, I felt something like peace. I wasn't afraid anymore. I looked out over the water and whispered, "We were supposed to protect people, Danny, and in the end we only destroyed each other." Then I took my gun out one last time. I looked at it, then at the horizon where the sun was just starting to rise, a soft orange light breaking through the gray. I thought about my son's smile, Sarah's laugh, all the good things that used to make life worth living. And then I threw the gun into the river. Watched it sink until the water swallowed it whole. That was my last act as a cop. No badge, no weapon, no more blood. I turned away and walked down the bridge, not knowing where I was going. Maybe I'd keep walking until there was nothing left of me. Maybe I'd start over somewhere no one knew my name. Or maybe I'd just fade away, like the ripples on the water. Either way, it was over. The darkness had taken enough from me. And as the sun rose higher, warming my face, I realized something I hadn't in a long time. I was finally free.